Microphone test, 1, 2, 3.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2, 3.
Okay, welcome everybody. If I could ask the committee members to take their seats, please. We have quorum. Turn my phone off. I just have to turn my phone off. Sorry, and I don't have my glasses on, so. Here we go. Well, I understand we have the former mayor of Vanier with us, Mr. Guy Cousineau. Where did you go? There you are. Now, I remember you and I were at Lynx Stadium, I think, together, and we all had to throw a ball, and you were the best one. I forget what the occasion was, but it was, I thought, wow, that's what they do in Vanier. They play ball. Thank you for coming today, and welcome everyone. So we're going to have a look at our agenda. If you want to speak and you haven't registered yet, you can sign up just over there with the two lovely Vanna Whites on the right. First of all, I'm going to ask if there are any declarations of interest, and we do have declaration of interest from our Vice Chair, Barry Podolsky.
Madam Chair, I'd like to declare conflict of interest on two items. One is the designation of St. Charles Church, 135 Barrett Street, under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, and the other one is the designation of the British American Banknote Company, 975 Gladstone Avenue.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have confirmation of minutes of July the 11th, 2013. Okay. Thank you. And so now we're going to go to our agenda and see if there's anything that we can carry on consent. And that would mean that if the committee members agree and if none of you want to speak to the item. So the first item is the application to alter 106 to 116 Spark Street. No, wait a minute. I've got an old one here. It's not even on there. Of course it's not. Why have I got this old agenda in here? Oh, maybe it's the minutes. There you go. Hang on. I'm going like, wait a minute, I didn't think we were dealing with that. Yep, thank you. Note to staff. Fix my binder. Thank you. Okay, so the first item, we do have a speaker on this. We have possibility of two speakers, and this is application to demolish 23.5 St. Andrew Street. We also have communications from a couple of organizations. So we'll hold on item number 1. Item number 2 is, yeah, we have delegations for item number 2. So we're holding item number 2. Item number 3 is, of course, delegations, but we're also going to have a presentation on this one. This is the Somerset House, which I think most people in the room are very excited about. We'll hold that. Item number 4. We don't have anyone to speak to this. This is updates to the Heritage Grant Program for Building Restoration. Anyone in the audience want to speak to this? It is the same funding that we've had. It's a very popular program. We run out of money every year halfway through. But is that carried? Thank you. And number 5 is one of the ones that Vice Chair Podolsky has declared an interest on, and we do have speakers on that. And number 6 is the designation of the British American Banknote Company. Do we have speakers on that one? Okay, so we're carrying nothing, and we're starting back at item number 1. So the first item is 23.5 St. Andrew Street. a property designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act and located in the Lower Town West Heritage Conservation District. And we did have this on our agenda last time, and it was deferred to this meeting. So does anyone have any questions of staff before I ask the delegations to come forward that are wanting to speak? No? So our first speaker is Francine Uhl here. Did you come back? Did you want to speak again today? Okay, come forward, please. And is Shannon Ricketts here? Hi, Shannon. Thank you. You'll be next.
Thank you for having us again. And just briefly, if the demolition is authorized, the building is also has a carport right next to it, and the roof on that carport is in really bad shape, and animals, dead animals, fall between our stone wall building and that carport. As I said before, there are many rodents that house in that building. So I'm just wondering what the city will do about the adjacent building if the 23.5 is demolished.
All right, so I'll ask, Sally, is this your file? Leslie? Will the carport come down with the 23.5 St. Andrews if that is approved?
I'm not sure if the carport is intended to be part of the demolition, but if there are property standards issues, then that would become a property standards issue after the building is demolished.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Okay. So, Shannon, would you like to come forward, please?
Good morning. I recognize this is a difficult file because I've seen the property and it is in terrible condition. However, I would like to point out that it is a contributing resource in a heritage conservation district. Lower Town West is being nibbled away until it looks like a piece of Swiss cheese. And often it's argued that these are insignificant buildings, and indeed that's why the district was designated, because it was, at the time of designation at least, a coherent collection of working houses, working class houses. And, this is a real challenge, I think, for the city's bylaw, trying to defend against demolition by neglect. Ironically, this little building is a historic example of intensification, and when it goes, if it goes, we will lose yet one more possibility of affordable accommodation. So I'm not sure what can be done, if it can be saved, but I just want to put up this red flag that it is yet one more fairly significant loss in a heritage conservation district that is being nibbled away. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions of Ms. Ricketts? No, thank you for coming out today. And I have, we all have communication from Leslie Maitland, who's the president of Heritage Ottawa, on this particular item. Do you have a copy of this, Leslie? Well, I'm just going to read you a sentence in it. If the building cannot be saved, and this is after she's pointed out it's clearly a case of demolition by neglect, and it's unfortunate the building standing bylaws were not adequately enforced in the past. But we all know, and we say this at every meeting now, we do have a policy at the city. We are very serious about maintaining our heritage properties, but it is going to take a bit of time while we deal with the ones that were neglected so badly. So in this case, the question that is being asked by Ms. Maitland on behalf of Heritage Ottawa, if the building cannot be saved, it should at least be subject to a thorough recording and any salvageable elements such as porch features be removed to repurpose. Would it be would you have the ability to have a look at that, or would you be interested in doing so? Or have you already had that look and you've determined that there isn't anything? I know that at the last meeting you were talking about even the windows you don't think are the original windows, and it looks like they're moved from where they were.
I don't think that there's much there to record or save to repurpose, in my opinion. So I don't think it's something that staff would do on their own, but if it's something that the committee wanted, then obviously we follow your direction.
Well, you've obviously had a look at it already. So I can also say that the ward councillor, Councillor Mathieu Fleury, sent an email supporting the demolition yesterday. Pardon? Yeah, reluctantly. You know, he understands the value of the properties that we're trying to save. I think it's how we go forward from now is what we have control over and not what was done in the past. And we can sit here every meeting and bash everybody that hasn't taken care of it, and we are pretty good at that. But really, you know, understanding what we need to do to change that, the old way, and make it the new way. So, okay, thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Hobbs?
Thanks, Madam Chair. The last speaker brought up the point of intensification, and I know that having these little homes or these in-law suites in the back of properties, I don't think is allowed in many places in Ottawa today, but I'm just wondering if the zoning stays and if it's possible to build another building like this after.
Through you, Madam Chair, the existing zoning does not permit this, so it's a legal non-conforming use, but once it comes down, that's it.
Vice Chair Podolsky?
I think that there's an expectation by the heritage community and the public that somehow City Council has drawn a line in the sand to prevent future demolition by neglect. And I guess people are kind of wondering where at the last meeting we approved the demolition of the building on Cumberland and Murray, and now this one. Will there be one at each meeting? That the line in the sand keeps moving. And I think that from what we understand, the new reinforced bylaws that the Council has approved are to actually make this effective as of now. And I just wondered whether or not Sally or Leslie could comment on the your understanding of how the heritage staff will be kept up to date by the those that are enforcing the property standards bylaws, say on a monthly basis, as to what the status is of orders relating to buildings within Part 5 heritage districts or Part 4, so that just let us know if you have some comfort level that now it's going to be monitored closely by heritage staff.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, since the list, which we have talked about at various meetings, was established, we have a close relationship with Linda Anderson and the people that work for her, so we are keeping better tabs on the buildings that are empty, and of course with the stricter enforcement of board-up bylaws, et cetera, these buildings will be in a more secure state, so are not so likely to deteriorate. Plus, of course, that list is generated by inspectors, by staff, and by the public. So if there is a building that a member of the Built Heritage Subcommittee is aware of that we may not perhaps be aware of, we always you can always tell us and we can get it on the list, so the stricter enforcement can be put in place and these buildings will remain and not be allowed to deteriorate.
Okay, so if this committee, I want to take it to the step beyond that. If this committee approves the demolition, it may be a while before the demolition actually happens. And, wait a minute.
Oh, sorry.
And so I want to make sure that the conditions that are currently there, for example, the pictures that you showed us last time, Ms. Uhl, are not, that's not allowed to continue, because that's unfair to the neighbors. If we make a decision on demolition and it can't happen, I want to make sure that property standards are going to go in and make sure that the holes in the roofs are sealed, that the animals that are living there are no longer have access to enter the property, and that the fear of fire and those sort of things, to the best of the ability of bylaw services, be taken care of. So that's dealing with the fact after the demolition is allowed, because that's, it puts the entire Heritage District at risk, really. So do you have that relationship? Do we know anything about that?
I have spoken to, Madam Chair, I've spoken to Linda Anderson regarding this, because of course, the mandate under the Heritage Act, ends with the recommendation of the committee and the issuance of a heritage permit, but again, the assurance that something will happen. So if the heritage permit is issued and there's no immediate action, then property standards can go in and issue board-up orders, and if these aren't undertaken, then they can go in after 7 days and do the work and charge it back to the property owner. So there is a relatively...
But that's if we're keeping it. I'm talking about in this case with the demolition, does the same rules apply until
Yes.
it is demolished?
Yes, but my point is if we issue the heritage permit, and if the heritage permit is not acted upon and a demolition permit is not applied for or issued, there are things in the interim that can be done. And those are all...
And that's what I think the committee would want to see done.
Yeah, and that's
shake your
it.
head.
Yes.
Okay, anyone else have anything to say on 23.5 St. Andrews? No? So are we carried? Carried. Thank you very much. So the demolition has been approved. Okay. Next item is designation of the Andrew Fleck House at 593 Laurier Avenue West. Does the committee, would you like to have a presentation on this, or are you, I don't know, the staff have prepared one. Do you have you? Would you like to see a brief presentation on this? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Fleury. We just approved the demolition of, and thank you for your correspondence last night. Okay. And we also have asked that we're going to follow up until the demolition occurs and make sure that the property is as safe as can be. Okay? All right. So we're going to have a presentation on Andrew Fleck House.
You can do this. Have it here. Good morning, everybody. So what's before the committee today is the designation of the Alexander Fleck House. The Andrew Fleck House is already designated at 593 Laurier Avenue West under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Alexander Fleck is Andrew's brother, if you know anything about Andrew, or was Andrew's brother. So the location of the property is at the northwest corner of Laurier and Bronson, just as Bronson goes down the hill towards the river. This is a bird's eye view of the property. It is right here. So as you can see, it's quite a large house. Street view of the property. So this is along Laurier, looking east or northeast towards the property. This is along Bronson. You can see this stone retaining wall as well, looking west towards the property. This is sort of at the intersection of Bronson and Laurier, standing, well, I'm not standing there because it's Google, but in the middle of the street. So the house was built in 1902 for Alexander Fleck, who was a local Ottawa businessman who inherited his father, Alexander Fleck's business at the Vulcan Iron Works on Wellington Street. The company was linked with the pulp and paper industry in Ottawa and supplied machinery to the mills Chaudière Island. It's an excellent example of the Queen Anne Revival style, including many typical details. It's 2.5 stories with a complex roof with many different pitches and gables, multiple materials. You see brick, stucco, wood, decorative brickwork, and tall chimneys. The exterior of the building has a very high level of architectural integrity. It has had a couple of additions over time, but in general retains many of its historic details. And then just to give you the context, the building, as it is located at a prominent corner, is a landmark in this part of Centertown. It was part of a number of upper middle class houses that were built in this area in the late 19th and early 20th century, but it is one of the only ones that is remaining. The official plan provides the guidance to designate properties of cultural heritage value under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act and districts under Part 5. The provincial policy statement also states that significant built heritage resources and cultural heritage landscapes will be conserved. And then Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act is the piece of legislation that is used by the municipality to designate properties of cultural heritage value. However, in order to designate a property under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, it must meet one of the three criteria outlined in Ontario Regulation 0906. The three criteria, as you may be aware and you will become increasingly familiar with, are associative or historical value, design or physical value, and contextual value. So I'm just going to quickly go through each of the criteria as to why this building meets the criteria. So under design value, as I mentioned earlier, it's an excellent example of the Queen Anne Revival style. We don't know for sure who the architect was, but there is some speculation that it was designed by the same architect as Andrew Fleck's house on Wilbrod Street. Historical value associated with the Fleck family, who were a prominent family in Ottawa in the late 19th and early 20th century, and with the lumber industry. And then contextual value, it is a landmark at the corner of Bronson and Laurier on a limestone ridge. So the staff recommendation, next slide, thank you. The staff recommendation is that the committee recommend the issuance of a notice of intention to designate under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act according to the Statement of Heritage Character that is attached as document 5 to the staff report. I did submit to the committee coordinator a technical amendment because there was an oversight by staff in that document 5 of the staff report. The interior of the building is intended to be excluded from the designation, so it would just be the exterior of the original portion of the building. So a technical amendment has been submitted to recommend the exclusion of the interior of the building. I'm happy to answer any questions the committee might have.
Vice Chair Podolsky is going to be moving that technical amendment on the interior. Does anyone have any questions on this file? No? Okay, we do have a speaker, so... Okay. So our speaker is Cecily. Pardon? Can we take your sidebars outside? Cecily Quinn, please. Is it Cecily? Thank you. Come forward, please. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Don Wiggins. As owners of this property, we would like to state for the record that we are opposed to having our property designated heritage. We realize that the Ontario Heritage Act does not take the owner's wishes into consideration, unlike similar acts in other provinces. British Columbia, for example, has never had a property designated against the owner's wishes. We find the Ontario Heritage Act an infringement of our rights as property owners. Stories in the media have led us to believe that the vision for the Ottawa downtown core is for high-density development near the rapid transit stations. Our property is just blocks from the new rapid transit. It is one of the highest points in the city with magnificent views of the Ottawa River and the Gatineau Hills, and it is surrounded by high-rises. This makes it a prime candidate for development. We are appalled that we are not at liberty to do what we want with a property that has been in my husband's family for 70 years, having lived in this home with the intention of eventually selling it for proper market value. The heritage designation will reduce the market value of the property, remove the option for development, limit buyers, and restrict what the owner can do. Forcing the heritage designation of the house will cost us millions of dollars. Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. Does anyone have any questions? I understand this is very personal for you, obviously, and you're talking about your financial future. But I would just comment that there are other examples in quite close to your area where planning staff, we have made decisions based on, for example, the Christ Church on the escarpment over the Ottawa River, and what we did with that property, with the application, keeping that church and building around it. It was important to do that, and I'm sure, I mean, does it give you any confidence at all that the interior is being excluded from the designation?
Yes.
Okay, and that's something that we're happy to do. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming. Councillor Hobbs has a question of staff arising from your... Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just in regards to what happens in other heritage designated buildings, what is allowed to be built onto this? So, for example, if there was to be an addition, how big could it be or where could it be?
Through you, Madam Chair, when we assess additions or alterations to designated buildings, we look at impact. So we don't necessarily look at, sort of numbers, like it can be 100 square feet or whatever. I think as Mrs. Quinn mentioned, the site is a prime site for redevelopment in terms of its location and that sort of thing. And that was part of the reason that we excluded the additions that are at the rear of the building. And if you can go back, there's some aerials. Yeah, so if you look at this slide, we've excluded all of this from the designation. So the site is still quite large, and staff feel that some sort of development could be incorporated here. Obviously, we can't comment on exactly what that might be because it would depend on what is proposed.
So theoretically, along with this, or I don't know if we can do this at this committee, but should there be some type of assurances given to the owners that of what the remainder of the zoning could be, whether or not that's 15 stories or, that's what we did with the Bethany Hope House and on the site on Wellington Street, and because the owners also were not really in agreement to have that classified heritage, and that worked out. And I don't know if the ward councillor in this area, I'm not sure who that is, that Diane Holmes has addressed that at all in terms of working on the rest of the property.
Councillor Holmes has indicated that she's supportive of the designation. She has not, there haven't been any discussions around what the potential zoning of the site might be, which I think, could be difficult to do without, some sort of proposed use. We don't know who the buyer of the property might be or what they might want to do there. So I think that's a little bit difficult. The Ontario Heritage Act does provide for, as you see at this committee all the time, alterations to designated properties. So it's not as if by designating this property that nothing can happen here. The future owner would have to apply.
Yeah, what couldn't happen if it is approved for a heritage designation is the part of the building that is designated would be the part that was respected with an application. And I think that if you look at, from showing that excellent picture that shows the amount that you're not including, the property itself is quite a good size. I would think, though, that we are looking at protecting the integrity of the stone wall as part. That would tie in with what Councillor Hobbs was saying about Bethany. We did the front lawn. We included that. The stone wall would be part of that designation. Did you have something to say, Vice Chair Podolsky?
Yes, I did. Councillor Hobbs brought up the Bethany Hope Centre on Wellington Street, and in that designation, the front lawn was explicitly included as part of the heritage values. In this case, there is no mention of that. And what it suggests is that development could conceivably also take place in the front yard, as well as the rear in some sort of assembly with adjacent properties. So I think, could you clarify whether or not the statement of intent and the heritage values includes or excludes the front yard?
Through you, Madam Chair, as Member Vice Chair Podolsky is well aware, the front yard of the Bethany Hope Centre was included as a deliberate sort of design feature and heritage attribute of that designation. In this case, I don't think that the front yard is a significant heritage attribute. However, the heritage attributes that are listed in Document 5 would have to be protected and respected. So I think significant development in the front yard would not achieve respect and protection of those heritage attributes. So as I said before, any proposed development on the site would be assessed on its impact on what is outlined in Document 5 of the staff report. I do not feel that there's a need to include the front lawn. It's not something we typically include other than when it is considered to be part of the contextual value of the building, of the property.
Okay. Thank you. Member Smallwood, please.
Thank you. I just think it's worth noting, with respect to what Mrs. Quinn said, as an owner of a property 1 block south of here that's very similar to this and is heritage designated, there's certainly no doubt in my mind that there is a financial consequence to heritage designation. And I think it's one of the weaknesses of the Act that there is no meaningful municipal recognition of that loss that takes place for a heritage owner. So with the designation, there will be a financial impact, I think, and there's no question about that. Thank you.
And that's good to know. And I mean, has there ever been any, this is to staff or to the experts in the room, has there ever been any discussion about that from perhaps a tax benefit or something like that in Ontario?
The Ontario Heritage Act provides on a municipality-by-municipality basis for people to, for municipalities to enact a tax rebate system. The City of Ottawa has looked into that, and it's certainly still on our radar. One of the issues with implementing such a program in the City of Ottawa is that it's incredibly complicated because so much of our tax base is grants in lieu of taxes from the federal government that it makes it harder to sort out. But it's certainly, we have had discussions with finance about it, and we continue to, that's one of our priorities to do that. So that would be some kind of, a relief from property taxes. Other than that, we did see the heritage grants today, but that's a very small program, as we know, designed to reach wide but not offer very much money. And I think Leslie just pointed out to me that one of your attachment or circular communications today was the financial incentives for heritage properties from the Ministry of Tourism, and it was the winter 2013 information, which that I understand the committee assistant has circulated to members of the committee. So, right now there's only grants, but there could be more.
So perhaps because we have switched gears with heritage respect in the city, and I think even the people that are closest to the heritage of the City of Ottawa and have that kind of education and understand that we have made those changes. I would like to see a discussion come up on the agenda with finance here to talk about what kind of options could be looked at so that when we make these decisions, we have, I'm going to go to you in a minute, hang on. When we're making decisions, we have 3 today that we are being asked to designate, and we know that there's many other ones as well on the horizon that we haven't even got before us, but we should have that discussion, and so that there is an incentive for people to do the best they can with the property they own that is of value to the residents of Ottawa and as the nation's capital to the residents of Canada in telling our story. So would we all agree with that? And Vice Chair Podolsky?
Yes, I think that the issue of loss of property values, where there's community benefit here, is obviously one of the, the key issues of fairness to all. There are some interesting case studies recently that help to create a better balance. And the two cases that I think staff are awareness are the designation of 7 Hinton Avenue under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act and the Bethany Hope Centre. And in both of those cases, the property owners and the City of Ottawa planning staff negotiated a rezoning application at the same time as the heritage designation, which looked for ways to create assurance of the development potential on the rest of the site in exchange for the designation. And both of those, I think, are generally deemed to be success stories. And I think that people that have indication that their properties might be receiving a notification of intention to designate would be well advised to bring forward proposals for rezoning and negotiate them with planning staff and heritage staff so that the package for designation comes forward at the same time as a rezoning envelope, which attempts to reasonably capture development. That's a suggestion that could be made and adopted.
And in the case of Bethany House, the opportunities that now have come forward from doing just that are incredible. And I'm sure that there'll be more news on that. But I can tell you, and certainly Councillor Hobbs could as well, there's an opportunity with our Rosemount branch that we're working on right now with Barry Hoban, who's the architect. And it's specifically because of doing that rezoning, recognizing the importance of Bethany House, recognizing the front lawn. The developer is going to maintain that front yard. Is investing over $1 million just into that. There's an opportunity that's been created to increase the size of Rosemount Branch, which is one of the Ottawa Public Library's 8 priorities that has to be improved, increased by almost a third of the size, and that's something that we're working on as well. And so to Ms. Quinn and her property, where did you go? There you go. So with this property, with your property, if it does pass the committee, I would suggest that you look at some of those opportunities that Vice Chair Badalski is talking about that we are seeing in other places. You've got, I think you have a great opportunity, but that's, we have nothing to look at yet, but that doesn't mean that there won't be. Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And just continuing on with that thought, with the Bethany Hope House, we went through this rezoning as part and parcel of the heritage designation, so that a developer wouldn't come up and offer less money for that property than because it was designated heritage, and then turn around and ask for far more than we might have expected. So we set all the limits on that so that the property could be sold for a fair price if that's the decision of the owner. And that somebody else couldn't come up after and reap far more benefit than the original owner could do. So I would strongly encourage that zoning process goes on. And in the case of the Bethany Hope House, that was done as part of a community design plan, and I don't believe there was any cost then for the rezoning. The rezoning was done as part of that design plan and part of that package. So that might be another thing we should be thinking about in terms of heritage properties when something like this goes on. If we can sort of include that as part of the package so that homeowners are not penalized. Rezoning is quite expensive, so okay maybe for a developer, but difficult for a private homeowner. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything else to say? Okay, so on the recommendation, well, we have the technical. We have the technical amendment first from Vice Chair Podolsky, that Therefore, be it resolved, the Built Heritage Subcommittee approve the replacement of revised document 5, which is this, for the version previously circulated with the report.
Yeah, so moved.
Thank you. So on the technical amendment, is that carried? Carried. And on the recommendation as amended? Carried. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming today, and, look forward to, I would suggest that you start thinking about some of the comments that were, Thank you very much. Okay, so now we are on to, and we're having a presentation, the application to alter the Somerset House, which is a property well known, I think, to most people in the city. Are you ready?
This is in front of you today is an application to alter the Somerset House, a property designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act and located within the boundaries of the Centretown Heritage Conservation District. It is located at the corner of Somerset and Bank Street. It has a Somerset address, although it appears to have a front door on Bank Street. It was constructed in the early 20th century as a commercial building hotel, and with an addition later on Somerset about a decade later. It is a very typical example of a late 19th, early 20th century commercial structure with retail at grade, residential or offices above, bay windows which are typically to let in more light, a corner tower just as embellishment, and then very regularly spaced windows with beautiful brick and metal detailing. This is the cornice is all metal, and so that is the building. It was under restoration in 2007 when there was a mishap, and the building, part of the building collapsed, and it has been empty ever since. This project is to start the restoration that was underway at the time, and to add to the building and to get it back to being a central focus of Bank and Somerset, and an entranceway to the Somerset commercial district, and which is BIA. So these are just some pictures of the building. That was the rear portion that collapsed, and this is where the application that we're looking at is going to be located today. This is the front facade, or the Bank Street facade. You'll notice that the bay window that you saw in the heritage photo is here. This one is gone. It will be the current bay window will be used as a template for its reconstruction and replacement here. Again, your drawings show that there's storefronts on Somerset. That work had commenced at the time of the accident, and it will continue. And all of the brick detail, the lintels, the decorative pattern here, these windows, and voussoirs and openings, they will all continue. The drawings in your package don't have these in a great amount of detail, because really they were drawn up to show the nature of the addition, but I can assure you that the restoration drawings, etc., that were developed when the work was underway in 2007 and 2008 will be continued, and it is an accurate restoration. So here's some other details that will be reproduced again. There's lovely little arches over these windows, and they will continue. They will be there. So, as I said, designated under Part 5, all applications to alter designated buildings require City Council approval, which is why it's here today. The application is to continue the restoration of the existing building, reinstating the storefronts, and to construct a two-story addition at the rear on top of the remains of the existing rear wing. This portion of the building was constructed after the original portion, so it had 4 stories stories, and the original is 3 stories, so there are issues with floor-to-ceiling heights that have always existed there. So here's the site plan. This is Bank Street, Somerset Street. The new portion of the building is here. So after many discussions with the project architect and trying to sort out how we were going to do, how to accommodate 4 stories when this is 3 stories and have it with the same cornice line, we came up with the idea that the best way to accommodate this was to introduce a completely new element. This is in keeping with the principle of a new work should be distinguished from old, and this would accommodate the needs of the building, would accommodate the 4 floors and sort out the floor-to-ceiling issues, and be but the same height and massing as the existing. So here, this is the restored storefront with the bay windows and the new commercial structure, commercial spaces at grade. And here again, these were the drawings that were being used when the building collapsed. So as you can see, it is an accurate restoration. Again, and this side with the door openings here. Perspective views, so the new addition again matches the cornice, but it will float above the brick masonry portion of the building. And from the rear, from Somerset Village, it again will be a contemporary insertion into the historic fabric to the same height and massing. So today we're asking you to approve the application to alter, issue the heritage permit with a 2-year expiry date, and our usual delegate authority for minor design changes to the planning and to our department. The district guidelines, that is consistent with the district guidelines. One of them is, where possible, original proportions should be reestablished. This does so. Consideration should be given to restoration of the upper facades in conjunction with any storefront. This does so. And then again, all infill should be contemporary in design, but distinguishable from contemporary design, distinguishable as being of its own time, but sympathetic to the heritage character of the area, and designed to enhance the existing properties rather than calling attention to itself. Standards and guidelines that approved by City Council. Standard 1, conserve heritage value. Standard 11 is again, make new additions physically and visually compatible with, subordinate to, and distinguishable from the historic place. In consultation, everybody has been watching this corner very closely for a number of years, and Heritage Ottawa was notified of the application. Neighbors within 30 meters of the property were notified, and the Centretown Citizens Community Association, Somerset, BIA Bank Street BIA, all were notified. The CCCA has now responded and is in support. Everybody is in support, as is the ward councillor. The department supports the application because it meets the Heritage Conservation District guidelines that were approved by Council, meets the standards and guidelines that were approved by Council, will involve the restoration of a vacant building that has been empty for years, and the revival of the corner of Bank and Somerset Streets. If there are any questions, thank you.
Great job. Yeah, you have a question? Of course you do. No? He's got his finger up. That's as easy as a question. Anybody else? We do have Ms. Maitland wanting to speak to this. Do you want to speak if we carry it? Well, come on forward. This is Leslie Maitland, and thank you for all of your submissions that you have sent us today. This must be exciting for you today.
Oh, well, this is a wonderful opportunity, and I very much would like to thank all of you for really turning a corner on a key building in the City of Ottawa, and also thank Ms. Coots for clarifying the staff report. And really, it's just a technical question. Does this staff report now need to be updated to make sure that when it goes to planning and council that we're talking about the 2008-2010 drawings? That's all I'm wondering, just so we have clarity about what we're restoring.
No, it doesn't, because when the plans come in, we will, and we've worked with the architect we check the plans against what's approved, and the elevations I showed that involve the restoration, that was an approved building permit, so the two will work together, and we will not sign off the permits unless the restoration is accurate, so you don't need to. You can just trust us that the drawings will come in, and we won't sign them off unless it is a restoration.
Excellent. I'm delighted, and thank you very much.
Thanks very much. And Member Smallwood, you had comments to make?
Just one comment. I was involved in this building when it was at its darkest hour, and I really think one person who should be congratulated and commended on this is the architect, Derek Crane, because he has stuck through with this thing from the beginning, and I think this is just a wonderful, wonderful story that we're seeing here today. Thank you.
Is Mr. Crane here today?
No, he's not. I think he's in Italy.
He's in Italy?
Maybe. Yeah, he certainly, he's been very involved, and he and I had a wonderful time working out this final solution.
Did you get to go to Italy?
There is an agent for Mr. Crane is here if there are technical questions. He is available to speak,
I don't think so. Thank you for coming, Ms. Maitland. So, committee? Now, does that mean no? Because you see that one finger means okay. This means I want to speak. See, I've got to get the hand signals here. Vice Chair Podolsky.
The chair, noticed quite astutely that I was very anxious to speak on this, and I am, and I must say, with some great relief, and I'm delighted to move the staff report exactly as it is. I think this is an important milestone and hopefully the end of a long nightmare for both the city, the owners, and like Zanny Smallwood, I want to congratulate Derek Crane, the architect, and the owner, Tony Q, for persevering on this. And this probably will be a documentary film or a book one day in the heritage literature. Not at all, not at all. But thank you, and move the staff report.
Yeah, thank you. And as I think I know I'm the only councillor that was on council when we had the back of the building fall in, and how sad that was, I think, for everybody, and of course the impact it had on that part of Bank Street and what went on for months and months and months. This is truly a good news story, and I'm glad that everybody's on board. So on the recommendation is carried. Thank you. So, we're saying goodbye now to our Vice Chair Podolsky, who has declared an interest earlier on items 5 and 6. So item number 5 is the designation of St. Charles Church. We do have several speakers, but Councillor Fleury? Councillor Fleury?
Councillor Fleury.
I wanted to give you the opportunity. I've already introduced Mr. former Mayor Guy Cousineau, but I see that you have welcomed somebody else.
Oui, merci. J'ai oublié, je reconnais la présidente qui a reconnu un ancien maire d'une communauté importante dans notre communauté, mais aussi, on a aussi le représentant le membre de parlement local qui est ici, Maurice Bélanger. Alors j'aimerais le souligner, ainsi que plusieurs autres personnes qui vont, j'imagine, parler au prochain thème. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Merci et bienvenue. We do have simultaneous interpretation for this item. So if anyone has need of that, please make yourself get yourself set up for it. Are we all set up here at this table? Yeah. Okay, good. So our first, do we want a presentation on this? No, we don't need a presentation. Do we have any questions of staff before we go to delegations? No? Okay.
I've got a question of staff.
You right now?
Well, without a presentation.
Sure.
Which I don't want.
Well, then go. Ask your question. Go.
Did staff consider anything other than complete designation? Did the staff consider a partial designation of this site?
Through you, Madam Chair, We did not include the interior of the building in the designation, and we also excluded many of the recent additions that are at the rear of the building, but we felt that the entire building should be designated for its cultural heritage value.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to go to the delegations. The first one up is Mike Bilthouse, who's the president of the Vanier Community Association. Welcome. You've been busy lately with all these new plans. Yeah.
Good morning. On behalf of the Vanier Community Association, I am grateful for this chance to add a little to our letter of support for designation, which I know is appended to the staff report. Our association, like many others, aims to foster community involvement, creating spaces for residents to help shape the community where we live. We aim to sustain a neighborhood where we all feel a sense of belonging, where we're valued, and where each of our stories is made to matter. About a year ago, uncertain of the future of St. Charles Church since its closing in 2010, we began to wonder how the site may again come alive. Early this year, we began working with a number of community partners, forming the St. Charles Design Collective, co-organizing a 2-evening consultation in June. Our aim was to engage the community, enabling residents to articulate any significance that they attach to the site, while also empowering them with information and tools to articulate their aspirations for the site's future. About 60 participants attended each night, among them former parishioners and area residents. We viewed archival photos, and we learned of the church's social history. We heard about how central the building, and indeed parish life more generally, had been in previous decades. From one resident, we heard of a desire to emphasize how much of community life was based on the parish community. Another resident explained, and I quote, "Pour nous les résidents, tout était basé sur la paroisse, avec la Société Saint-Vincent de Paul, les lacordaires, les scouts, les guides de la paroisse." And we heard that today, St. Charles demeure un site rassembleur. And even for non-parishioners, we heard that the church had become a landmark, a part of an everyday landscape that is unique to this community. From another resident, "La raison pour laquelle je suis ici ce soir, c'est parce que l'Église, c'est le cœur de notre communauté." The church is the heart of the community. Throughout these 2 evenings, we heard of a clear desire to see the space again play its role as a place for gathering, as a hub on Beechwood that connects communities. For our community association, I believe that the heritage application exposed even more of the significant history to us. We recognized the importance of retaining this building that represents a major element of our community's story. For myself, as an Anglophone, I can't help but see the rich heritage and the significance the St. Charles holds for the Francophone community. The building stands as a reminder of previous experience, as a symbol of a community's struggle, but also of its strength and its pride, representing the right of Francophones to flourish in Vanier, in Ottawa, in Ontario, and across Canada. Preserving the building allows us all, Francophones, Anglophones, and all Canadians, to hear these stories and to learn from them. And so, in September, our board overwhelmingly voted to support this application. We see designation as a way of ensuring that our communities remain rooted in our past, and we see designation as providing a way of ensuring that the identity of this Main Street and the Beechwood area remains unique and true to itself. Of course, though no longer a gathering site for a parish, St. Charles has continued to serve as a gathering place. We know that the building and the square around the church has served as a unique, rich setting for neighborhood festivals, Sage Hill, Jane's Walk, the Beechwood Solstice Stroll, and we heard through our consultations participants identify ways to creatively reimagine the inside of this building, drawing on its strengths and acting as a social hub in new ways, perhaps a performance space, an indoor market, a concert hall, a Francophone cultural center. We aim to see the next chapter of this story, allowing St. Charles to continue to play a role as an anchor for social connection, for public gathering, and for community building. As another participant noted in June, respect for the stories of the former community is critical, but we need to reevaluate the evolution of this community. What will bring today's community together? This is a new we, And so, with respect for the past and with an eye to the future, we offer our full support to the designation of St. Charles Church. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well said. Just so you know, I'm going to have to say, we appreciate the fact that you're applauding, but then we'd have to allow people who wanted to boo as well. So we really don't allow either. But it was well said. And so, Councillor Fleury?
Merci, Madame la Présidente. I'd like to start by saying thank you, because all of the involvement of the community has started with the leadership of the Community Association, and you demonstrate once again that an historic French community with a strong French presence even today can work with different diversity, different language, and recognize some of the historical elements that are of one or multiple descendants. So the Community Association is an example of supporting what's right for the community, no matter which French, Catholic, non-Catholic, whatever the background might be. My question to you today is related to the future. Whatever the outcome is today, a designation, no designation, we know that the church use is probably going to change. Can you maybe articulate, you've spoken about some public spaces, some of the potential, but what is, from the community, from your perspective, what would be the desired outcome? And do we see, even through a designation, a redevelopment of elements of the site, or how does that work in your mind?
Thank you. I think I want to be careful that I don't express some of my thoughts as representing either the Community Association or the community at large. There's no doubt that at the consultations in June, we heard, and the consultations, I mean, the application had not yet been submitted, and so everything was sort of open in that consultation, from repurposing to complete redevelopment. But I think we heard a common theme, and that was to keep this space as a space of gathering and as a space for the community to connect with one another. I think there was a consensus that we didn't want to see a simple development of a 10 or 15-story condo tower. So, to keep this as a collective use for gathering, for those, and I think, preserving the building was a common theme, and we heard of a lot of ideas. We know that, the National Central Orchestra and the Stairwell Carolers and others have held concerts in here. The acoustics are quite good. We heard lots of ideas of a green theme, so, maybe it's a market with gardens outside, certainly a gallery space, perhaps a banquet hall, something that could be used for weddings and so on. And I think, what's clear is that an interior designation is not being sought, and so there's a lot of creative potential that could be used on the inside. So a sort of a social and a cultural hub. I think what's really significant too is that, the building is located geographically in what was Vanier, but very much connects to communities north of Beechwood as well. And I think, and the photos I think have shown that its location provides opportunities for being a bridge between these different communities. Maybe I'll stop there. I think that there are lots of possibilities. We know of examples across Canada, certainly, of repurposing churches for a whole host of creative purposes, and we know that there's a lot of energy towards those ends.
Good. We have another question from Member Smallwood. Is it for the delegation? Okay.
I will try to make it really brief. You mentioned all sorts of uses for it, and I just had one simple question, and that is, on whose ticket would this take place? Currently, the church owns it. Are you seeing them supporting these things at their cost, or would you see the city somehow buying this property and repurposing it? And if so, is this something that the city has even expressed any interest in? Thank you.
So I think our hope as a community is for the building to continue to serve the community. And we made it very clear in June that we're under no illusion to owning the site. We at all times have invited the Archdiocese and other partners to participate in this conversation. And we're grateful that over the summer, and as late as last week, there has been a dialogue. And so our orientation, I think, was anyone who is interested in this site to participate in this conversation with us. And we hope that there's a response to those ideas and an intention to sort of honor those. So I don't know that it's my place to speak to who will do that. I think our hope is that it retains its community orientation.
Thank you very much. Michelle Prévost, Chief Archivist, University of Ottawa. Thank you very much for coming today. Welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Bonjour, mesdames, messieurs. Je m'appelle Michel Prévost, je suis l'archiviste en chef de l'Université d'Ottawa et je suis engagé dans le domaine du patrimoine franco-ontarien et outaouais depuis 35 ans et je m'intéresse particulièrement au patrimoine religieux et je tenais à être ici ce matin pour soutenir les gens qui sont derrière moi, qui se sont déplacés pour appuyer la désignation de l'Église Saint-Charles et pour aussi, naturellement, appuyer cette demande. Je ne vais pas faire l'historique de l'Église, il y en a qui vont le faire. Je voudrais tout simplement rappeler que le patrimoine religieux, c'est ce qui est de plus tangible pour les Franco-Ontariens. Je ne vais pas faire l'histoire du passé, mais on ne peut pas dissocier l'histoire des Franco-Ontariens avec leur passé religieux. Cela dit, l'Église Saint-Charles fait partie du paysage urbain de ce secteur de la ville depuis plus de 100 ans. Sa valeur n'est pas que religieuse, elle est culturelle, identitaire. Bref, elle fait partie vraiment du quartier de l'histoire de la ville, peu importe la langue et la religion. J'aimerais faire un parallèle avec l'école Gig dans la basse ville d'Ottawa, qui est un bâtiment aussi identitaire comme l'église Saint-Charles. Et quand l'école a fermé en 1979, c'était à une époque la plus importante école de langue française primaire d'Ottawa, avec 800 élèves à son sommet. C'est lié au règlement 17, donc un bâtiment symbolique, et quand ça l'a fermé, l'année suivante, la ville d'Ottawa a désigné le bâtiment un monument historique en vertu de la loi sur le patrimoine de l'Ontario. Et à ce moment-là, on ne savait pas ce qu'on était pour faire. A suivi une longue saga, mais aujourd'hui, quand on regarde l'école Gig, c'est cité comme un des meilleurs exemples de restauration et de nouvelle vocation pour un bâtiment patrimonial. Aujourd'hui, c'est des condos, c'est un centre de service pour les aînés francophones. Bref, ça fait la fierté des Ottaviens et en particulier des francophones de la ville, mais je dirais de l'ensemble de la communauté franco-ontarienne. Bref, je pense qu'aujourd'hui, vous devez vous servir de l'exemple de l'école Gig. C'est très important de préserver l'église Saint-Charles pour les générations à venir. Et je dois vous dire que je suis quand même assez confiant que ce bâtiment-là va être préservé et que ça va devenir, dans les années à venir, peu importe la nouvelle vocation, que ça va devenir un autre bel exemple de restauration et de préservation du patrimoine. Et on dira, c'est une décision qui a été prise en 2013 et on va l'apprécier. Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Un moment. Question?
On a été récemment, c'était le 25 septembre, au centre de service Gig, puis moi et toi, on en a parlé de la plaque, de l'usage actuel. Moi, premièrement, je pense qu'il faut reconnaître quelqu'un qui n'est pas autour de la table parce qu'il y a un conflit sur le dossier actuel, mais qui a vraiment aidé le centre d'accueil Gig, c'est Barry Podolsky. Quand on était sur le site, c'est ce qu'on mentionne, c'est tout l'effort de Barry à ce niveau-là. On connaît ton cheminement, ton expertise dans le domaine, dans notre communauté. Moi, je suis curieux de savoir, À ton avis, j'ai demandé à l'association communautaire, c'est quoi l'avenir de ce site-là si ce n'est pas une église? C'est sur ça que j'aimerais entendre un peu de tes avis puis ton opinion.
D'accord. Alors, on dit toujours qu'il faut rêver. Ben, moi, je pense que c'est le modèle de St. Bridget's où, en particulier, la communauté irlandaise s'est beaucoup engagée pour en faire un centre d'art culturel aujourd'hui. Je sais que ça n'a pas été facile, St. Bridget's. On ne vous dit pas non plus que la nouvelle vocation de Saint-Charles va être facile, mais je pense qu'aujourd'hui, la communauté de la Basse-Ville, mais aussi d'Ottawa, déplorerait de voir qu'on aurait démoli l'église Saint-Bridget's, qui est aussi très identitaire. Alors moi, je pense que c'est un modèle comme ça, mais écoutez, l'important là, à cette étape-ci, c'est de préserver le bâtiment. Et après ça, on peut s'asseoir et trouver une nouvelle vocation au bâtiment. Parfois c'est long, parfois ça se fait plus rapidement, mais comme mon prédécesseur, l'église c'était un lieu communautaire qui était rassembleur. Alors si on peut trouver une vocation qui continue finalement, que l'Église ait plus de vocation religieuse, on peut quand même le témoigner, mais c'est important par des panneaux et tout ça, mais si on peut garder quelque chose qui est dans le même esprit de la communauté, je pense que c'est vers ça qu'il faut regarder.
Bon, merci.
Thank you.
Next is Mike Steinauer. You'll have to tell me when you get, it could be before I crucify it anymore. Come on, Mike. Steinhauer. How do you say it?
Steinhauer.
I was right the first time. Good. Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Mike Steinhauer. I am the resident that brought forth the application for designation for St. Charles Church. While the application may have been submitted by one individual, being myself, I would like to convey to this committee that the conversation on what to do with this building, the conversation about preserving this building, has been the topic of much discussion since the 1960s. It was during the 60s that the parish first considered demolishing the church in order to construct a brand new church to better serve their needs. Several decades later, as most of you know, the church was identified as an important node, an intersection in the Beechwood Community Design Plan, and the building itself was recognized as a significant landmark on Beechwood. Internal discussions on the future of the site were launched in 2010 after the final Mass was held at St. Charles in September of that same year. And more recently, as Mike was just stating, community partners, including the Vanier Community Association and Musée Parc Vanier, led a 2-day co-design consultation welcoming the community to envision the futures for this building. The official application for heritage designation further fueled this discussion and mobilized a small group of people, of residents, to drum up support from the broader communities. The response to the application has been strong, and thus this is no longer my application, but rather has become the application of the broader community, a community composed of Anglophones and Francophones, a community composed of residents from Vanier and from outside of Vanier, a community composed of residents from both sides of Beechwood. In fact, and Councillor Clark and Councillor Fleury may concur with this statement, it is a rare achievement when all 4 resident associations that border the St. Charles Church site agree. The application has the support of the Vanier Community Association, the Nuremberg Community Alliance, the Lindenley Community Association, and the Rockcliffe Park Resident Association. I will not use this time to restate what has already been placed in my application. However, I do want to take the opportunity to thank those individuals and organizations that have lent their support. The list is long, and so I can't name everyone, and many of the individuals are here in the room today. However, I would like to convey my sincere thanks to everyone for supporting this application. And I do want to name Madame Jeanette Graton, Madame Claude Gagné, Monsieur Prévost, and Mike Bilthouse for their immense support. This, to me, and to us as a broader community, is an immense opportunity. This is an exciting time for Vanier, and also an exciting time for Beechwood Avenue, as we're trying to build this main street. However, heritage designation is also a necessary step, an obligation, the obligation of this new generation of residents to commemorate and honor the community that built the neighborhood we now all call home. Let us not revisit the options we considered in the 1960s. If it hadn't been for the high construction costs, mostly due to Expo 67 in Montreal, this church would likely have been demolished. Today we have broader options, and heritage designation is the first step. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thanks for being the person who started the process for heritage designation. Thank you.
Quickly, I just want to echo that. All of the work from the community really started with you, Mike, and the group that really brought this to the forefront. And now we're today at the decision period, but all of the thought process involving all of the community representatives on both sides of Beechwood and all of the surrounding communities, it's because of you in the group, so thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Next up, we have Alexander Macklin, Rockcliffe Park Residents Association. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to appear before you. I have made a written submission, which I presume all of you have received. Yes, I am the past president of the Rockcliffe Park Residents Association and appear on their behalf. Our president has already sent a letter to the city and to other people saying that we have our total support to save this heritage building. The previous speakers have said a lot of things that I was going to say about the building. It's a landmark. It's really the only landmark on Beechwood Avenue. As you know, each end of Beechwood is under redevelopment. The Kavanaugh Esso station is being rebuilt with businesses and condos. On the other end, the building that was devastated by fire is also being rebuilt with condos and residences above. So this is all we have left, and it is a marvelous landmark, marvelous piece of architecture. You may ask, well, if it cannot serve as a church anymore and was only deconsecrated just a few months ago, what use is there for it, apart from its visual, splendid appearance? I like to look at what has been done with St. Bridget's Church in Centertown, which was the Irish immigrants' church. That was also slated for demolition, I understand, until a number of concerned citizens said, no, this church is splendid, it's a landmark, there should be another use for it. And so that has happened. It was designated as heritage. You got a number of concerned citizens got behind it, and it is now a marvelous facility for the arts, culture, and that's very, very popular and very much in use. Some of us at least, I think most of us, see a similar use for this church. There are other facilities in the area, but they're much smaller where you can hold cultural events, but nothing on the scale of this. We see this as being a landmark facility where we draw people from Vanier with the Francophone background, from Rockcliffe, where I live, with this mix of people, and New Edinburgh, et cetera, using this facility to the full. And I think with the help of interested and concerned citizens, this church can clearly be saved and be maintained. And I understand it is at the moment it is a financial burden on the Roman Catholic diocese. We would like to see some way of avoiding that and doing something about it. That will take a little time. This has only happened in the last couple of months, but we think we should be given an opportunity to do that. But we think it would be a wonderful facility
as I say, for arts, culture, groups getting together and saving this wonderful landmark and putting it to good use. The inside is gorgeous, the outside is gorgeous, and it's a beacon right in the middle of, and we get the light on top working again. It'll be a wonderful beacon on Beechwood Avenue for many years to come. So that's about all I have to say. I've given you my written submission. We're fully supportive of what is being proposed for this church, for the other communities, Vanier, New Edinburgh, et cetera, We're all behind it. We want to see it succeed, and we're willing to put to work to make it succeed. We'll go out and we'll find people who are prepared to support it financially and otherwise to make it a success, and I think it'll be a wonderful facility and an effort. It's well worth designating and saving. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Macklin. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Macklin? Thank you for coming out today. Next up, we have Jeanette Graton. Welcome.
Oups, ça glisse. OK. Bonjour. Merci de me recevoir et de m'entendre. J'aimerais vous parler de la valeur historique, sociale et culturelle de l'Église Saint-Charles. On en a parlé un peu, mais son histoire, elle est très bien dissimulée. Cette valeur dépasse largement le patrimoine religieux. Elle dépasse largement la reconnaissance de la communauté francophone de Vanier, de Rockcliffe, de New Edinburgh et d'Ottawa, bien qu'elle y touche, mais elle touche au Canada tout entier. Elle touche à nos valeurs en tant que peuple, à notre identité en tant que Canadiens. L'Église Saint-Charles est un monument national, un monument de la démocratie au Canada, un monument à l'éloge d'un Canada qui a 2 langues officielles et qui est uni, un symbole des Canadiens français et de leur amour pour le Canada. Lors de Jacques Cartier, pourquoi dire ces choses-là? D'où vient ce monument? C'est que lors de Jacques Cartier, une société secrète canadienne-française, pas occulte, mais secrète, a été fondée à l'Église Saint-Charles le 22 octobre 1926 et pendant longtemps il a tenu ses assises. L'ordre de Jacques Cartier, qu'on appelait aussi la Patente, a été dissous en 1965, juste avant la rupture du Canada français, alors que le mouvement souverainiste prenait de l'ampleur au Québec. Le bilinguisme étant une valeur essentielle qui fait aujourd'hui la fierté du Canada dans le monde, on comprendra pourquoi l'Église Saint-Charles revêt une grande importance historique et culturelle pour le pays tout entier. Malheureusement, trop peu d'entre nous connaissons cette histoire. Trop peu connaissent l'histoire des luttes des Canadiens français à partir de l'Église Saint-Charles. C'est que tout s'y faisait dans le secret, dans la discrétion, parce que l'ordre de Jacques Cartier, comme je l'ai dit tantôt, était un ordre secret. L'ordre de Jacques Cartier était voué à la défense et à la reconnaissance de la langue française et regroupait des hommes laïcs, des forces vives. Il a connu une croissance fulgurante dès sa création, en Ontario, au Québec, au Nouveau-Brunswick et dans l'Ouest canadien. 540 membres lors de sa création et 12 sections locales en 1926. L'ordre comptait près de 20 000 membres et 501 commanderies ou sections locales lors de sa dissolution en 1965. Ses membres fondateurs étaient surtout des fonctionnaires d'Ottawa. Le clergé n'en faisait pas partie officiellement, mais appuyait ses actions, parce qu'il faut comprendre, comme Michel Prévost le disait tout à l'heure, qu'on n'était pas encore au temps de l'État-providence. dans la francophonie se faisait à l'intérieur des structures religieuses. L'Église avait un rôle quasi étatique. Mais l'Ordre de Jacques-Cartier ne se battait pas, ne luttait pas pour la catholicité, luttait pour la langue française. Donc, il y avait des gens de partout, de Hearst à Pembroke, à Saint-Albert en Alberta, à Bouctouche au Nouveau-Brunswick, à Montréal, à Québec, à travers le Canada. Il y avait les barbiers, les bouchers, les médecins, les avocats, les notaires, les marchands, les comptables, les commis voyageurs qui étaient très importants, les gérants de caisses populaires, les propriétaires de magasins, les membres d'organisations pro-francophones. La Saint-Jean-Baptiste, les Richelieu sont dus à l'Ordre de Jacques-Cartier, et même des politiciens et des journalistes comme Fulgence Charpentier et Jean Drapeau. L'Ordre croyait sincèrement dans un pays, le Canada. Il croyait que ce pays pouvait faire une place aux anglophones et aux francophones, et ce, d'une mer à l'autre. Mais face à la montée d'un sentiment anti-francophone et face aux décisions de certains gouvernements d'annihiler la présence française au Canada, il s'agit de voir le règlement 17 dont Michel Prévost a parlé tout à l'heure ici en Ontario en 1912, l'Ordre s'est donné comme mission de faire valoir la langue française, de faire valoir la présence des Canadiens français et de faire avancer les intérêts d'un pays bilingue. Son travail d'influence se faisait par l'entremise d'une action concertée, mais secrète et pacifique par ses membres, qui influençaient tantôt l'administration publique, tantôt le secteur privé, dans toutes les régions du pays, et les actions se faisaient toutes simultanément. L'Église Saint-Charles a abrité le cœur battant des Canadiens français de tout le pays qui croyaient.
Can I just ask you to wrap up?
Yeah, I will wrap up.
Merci.
Is it 5 minutes?
It's past.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I usually have a clock in my mind because on TV you're
I
always...
can tell you were on a roll.
But I'm on a roll, and you know I can go on and on and on, and if you don't stop me, I'll be here at 2 o'clock still talking about the same thing. Donc, je pense que ce que je veux dire pour terminer, c'est que l'ordre qui s'est rompu en 1965, quand le Québec a décidé qu'il ne croyait plus dans le Canada. Il a invité les francophones à l'extérieur de déménager au Québec. Nous avons choisi de rester ici parce que nous croyons dans le Canada, et ne pas reconnaître l'Église Saint-Charles comme un monument historique serait de nous briser de nos racines une deuxième fois. Merci.
Merci. Hang on a minute. Conseiller Fleury.
Ginette, je ne vais pas demander une question, mais j'aimerais premièrement reconnaître ton travail, tout ce que tu as fait pour Montfort, pour d'autres survies, puis reconnaître aussi ta collaboration. Je sais que Mike avait besoin des partenaires pour mettre l'application ensemble, puis ton réseau, mais aussi tes connaissances de l'historique patrimonial puis culturel du coin a vraiment valu. Ça a bonifié la soumission, puis ça nous a aidé aussi à comprendre tout l'historique de ce que tu décris comme étant la patente ou l'ordre de Jacques-Cartier, puis tous ces éléments qui s'y rattachent. Alors, je te remercie pour avoir participé à ça, puis encore une fois, avoir contribué à la réflexion pour le rapport qui a été soumis aujourd'hui.
Merci, ça m'a fait plaisir.
Thank you. Next, we have 3 more speakers. The first one is Most Senior Kevin Beach. You are the Vicar General. Welcome. Thank you.
Good morning. I know that we've got 5 minutes, so I'm going to try and get to the point as quickly as possible. First of all, I thank the members for giving us the opportunity to speak, and when I say we, I think it's important to say right off the bat, I'm here on behalf of the 2 parish communities that are the owners of the property, Marie Médiatrice and Notre-Dame de Lourdes de Vanier. Alors ce matin, je suis accompagné des curés, aussi des membres du leadership de la paroisse, dont M. Cousineau, Guy Cousineau, dont la présence était déjà soulignée au moins à 2 reprises. Mr. Cousineau is also part of the parish leadership that arrived at this decision. And when I say we this morning, it's not me who's speaking as we. I'm speaking on behalf of the 2 parishes, the Francophone Catholic parishes, that are the owner of the property, as well as on behalf of the Archdiocese. Our role in this is that the parishes have asked for the property to be sold, but it's subject to approval. It's subject to the approval of the Archbishop according to the procedures of the Archdiocese. So that's why I'm here, as well as being able to provide resources that the Archdiocese has that the parish doesn't have, such as access to our archives, which has historical as well as very, very simple administrative and financial information. I think it's important to say right from the beginning that the parishes are not in favor of the designation. And I say that because they come to that decision in the context of a process that began in 2008. So this is not something that just happened in 2010. It's been a process of 5 years. And in fact, it has as its root a decision in the community. And one of the reasons why they've come to the decision not to be in favor of the designation is that in their own plan for this site, their preference would have been to build on this site because of its prominence. They envisioned a new church, actually a new complex that would have included a church. And to have the greatest flexibility as to what would go there, they anticipated demolition of the church. So it's important to say the context of their decision and what their own plans were and what their own plans would be, saying that if that was our plan, why should it really be imposed on someone else? One of the things I want to note is that in the document provided to the subcommittee, document 5, which I understand would be the formal proposal, the staff is already indicating that they are not extending the designation to the interior of the church, nor to the recent additions which are on the eastern elevation. So we're already seeing that the existing structure is very different from the church that was built at the beginning of the 20th century. And there's been a number of changes, certainly to the interior and to the exterior. So anyone who have to do with the property would see that, in fact, the church we see today is not the church that was built in 1913 or 1908 and 1913 with the additional material. So I'm just going to basically come directly to the 3 criteria that the subcommittee considers under Part 4 designation under the Ontario Heritage Act. Je dirais aussi que notre document est aussi disponible en français. J'ai donné des copies aux membres du personnel ce matin. Alors si vous voulez avoir accès, le document sera aussi disponible sur notre site de l'archidiocèse ainsi que le document en anglais. So the document in English and French is available to the committee, and also it's available on our Archdiocesan website. So looking at the 3 criteria, the first one, design or physical value. This is basically a Catholic Church perspective in Ottawa. St. Charles is in many respects an important church, no question. But the context, when we look at it in terms of our important heritage churches, it's not in the same category, and unfortunately I don't think in Ontario we have a classification or categories of importance of heritage properties. It's not in the same category, we would say, as its 3 closest neighbors. Notre Dame Cathedral, which is actually a designated national historic site. St. Bridget's that we've heard about this morning. There are some facts that probably need to be clarified about that, but we don't have time this morning. And St. Anne. Well, there was lots of coverage in St. Anne when there was the issue of it possibly being closed and sold. It's not in that same category. Even if we just look at the architecture, I think, and if we're looking for an example of the neoclassical style of construction of churches in Quebec, St. Anne is probably, I would suggest, is a better model of that. And the Archdiocese, with this being an officially designated heritage property, would say that within a 10-minute walk of St. Charles, we have a better example of that historical and architectural style. One of the things that always operates in terms of looking at our churches, and the cathedral is probably the prime example, the emphasis is not the outside. Where the emphasis is the inside. And if in Mr. Steinhauer's application you can see what the church looked like when it was in its full glory, it's far from that. So looking at it from a Catholic Church perspective in terms of architecture, sacred art, St. Charles has lost really its value in terms of being an example of Catholic Church architecture, mainly because of the interior.
I have to ask you to wrap it up.
Okay. Under the historic and social value, it is around the person of Monsignor Barrette. You'll see the information we have here. The position of the committee would be with the church named after, the street named after him, and also the wall mural. He has sufficient recognition. Contextual value, I mentioned already earlier how the community themselves, the two parish communities who are the owners of the property, looked at incorporating part of the existing structure, but in the context of the demolition of the existing church. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any? Councillor Clark?
Now, Monsignor, we have had a fair number of people in the community who have asked us to designate this. And the typical differences, there are two differences of view. One is the owner, which some of us wonder who pays for the correction if it is designated. But the reality is that we feel in the context of where it is and that street that it has merit as cultural heritage. When you say it's not like St. Anne's, well, no, and it's not like the church in Sarsfield or the one in Rockland or many others who were built with the steeples and the granite. But it is significant to the community, and I wonder how we reconcile that significance with the aims and objectives that you stated for the church. If the church wished to redevelop it, there has been really no initiative that I'm aware of. Did the church actually submit something to the municipality to do something with this?
They had two proposals from two developers to look at a redevelopment of the site, but the community themselves came to the decision that they didn't have the resources to build on that site. So it never got beyond conceptual planning.
Okay.
But they had serious planning and negotiation with two developers, but did not go forward. In the end, they made the decision that the project, that they did not have the resources, and considering the future of their community, they didn't want to. They made the decision not to go forward with any kind of development of the site.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming to today. Councillor Fleury.
Monseigneur, merci d'être ici aujourd'hui. Je sais que c'est pas toujours facile de faire la part des choses dans ce dossier. Je me questionne un peu, puis ça fait quelques fois qu'on a eu des rencontres avec vous, avec la communauté, tout ça. Je me demande fondamentalement si l'enjeu en est un. Je sais que vous avez aujourd'hui des besoins financiers, vous avez des réalités aussi au niveau de la participation dans la communauté qui ont fait que cette église-là est rendue vacante et qu'il y a eu des éléments. J'aimerais que vous peut-être nous décriveriez quelques éléments plutôt conceptuels. Est-ce que l'enjeu en est un financier? Est-ce que vous avez peur qu'avec une désignation qui aurait une valeur moindre lors d'une revente? Je suis un peu confus à ce niveau-là. Je comprends l'argumentation au niveau des changements qui ont eu lieu au niveau du bâtiment, puis qui ont peut-être éliminé certaines des valeurs qui pourraient y être, mais je suis confus au niveau réel aujourd'hui. S'il y a une désignation, quelle est votre peur?
Dans un premier temps, il faut dire que nous avons des églises pour des communautés. Hein? Si nous n'avons pas assez de paroissiens justement pour fréquenter les églises et donner l'appui nécessaire, les bâtiments ne servent à rien. Alors, dans un premier temps, il s'agit de consolider les populations catholiques francophones pratiquantes. Et dans ce secteur de Vanier, parce que dans mon document, vous allez voir qu'on a déjà, au fil des années, il y avait plusieurs églises qui ont été fermées. Alors maintenant, quand on regarde la population francophone catholique de ce secteur-là, la décision a été déjà prise que, bon, 2 églises servent amplement aux besoins de la communauté francophone de ce secteur-là. Alors, s'il n'y a pas de communauté vivante dans une église, il s'agit de prendre une décision concernant l'avenir du bâtiment. Concernant la valeur, parce que ça devient aussi une question pour une communauté qui est en effet le propriétaire. On a toujours l'idée que l'archidiocèse est le propriétaire de tous les biens dans l'archidiocèse d'Ottawa. Ce n'est pas le cas. Première correction. Les actifs dans l'Église Saint-Charles appartiennent à ces deux paroisses. Alors, évidemment, si l'Église, le propriétaire est vendu, les revenus appartiendront aux 2 paroisses. Et ça va servir aux besoins de ces communautés-là. Alors, c'est en effet, les deux communautés francophones catholiques qui restent. Alors, évidemment, en faisant leur évaluation, ils se disent, mais c'est dans notre intérêt, s'ils nous ont obligés de vendre un actif que nous ne pouvons pas entretenir, c'est dans notre intérêt d'avoir la valeur le plus haute possible. Je pense que c'est plutôt l'évaluation aussi simple que ça.
Parfait. Je comprends aussi que l'évolution de l'Église au niveau du rôle plus que religieux. Hein. On parle des écoles, on a eu Ginette qui nous a parlé tantôt du règlement 17. L'Église avait un rôle omniprésent dans la communauté à un certain moment, puis ce rôle-là a été fragmenté pour plusieurs raisons. On n'est pas ici pour remettre ça en surface. Mais je me questionne un peu sur l'aspect qui est linguistique, culturel dans toute cette discussion-là. Pourriez-vous peut-être nous éclairer sur votre opinion sur ça au niveau de l'ordre de Jacques-Cartier, au niveau peut-être aussi de certains autres éléments culturels, linguistiques qui ont lieu à Saint-Charles?
Bien, il s'agit dans un premier temps de renforcer les 2 communautés francophones qui sont encore à Vanier. Alors c'est là où on a vraiment la possibilité justement de favoriser une vie catholique en français. Et si on regarde la paroisse Marie Médiatrice, ce qui est intéressant aussi, elle tient compte des changements même dans la communauté francophone, parce qu'il y a des nouveaux arrivés qui fréquentent cette église maintenant. Des Congolais, des Burundais. Alors, il s'agit vraiment de dire... L'histoire est importante. Hein, l'Église catholique, la tradition fait partie justement de notre regard de foi. Mais il s'agit de tenir compte surtout des réalités, des besoins d'aujourd'hui. Et si nous avions vraiment une présence francophone de l'Église catholique à Vanier, il s'agirait justement de renforcer les 2 communautés pratiquantes qui sont là. Et c'est vraiment le but d'une vente. Parce que ce n'est pas une décision facile, surtout par des paroissiens qui sont là depuis la jeune enfance. Hein. Alors, ce n'est pas une question de nuire à la vie francophone, il s'agit de la renforcer.
Thank you. Merci. Marilyn Hart. Marilyn, are you here still? There you are.
She's right there.
Well, I didn't see her. Welcome.
The blue cross for Mr. Cousineau no longer lives.
Maybe that could be passed around by Carol. Carol, could you get that?
I can give you another version. May I step into the bull ring?
No. Marilyn, just have a seat and turn on the mic, please.
Pass this one.
Oh, there's a mic on this other seat. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Push the button.
My name is Marilyn Hart. I'm an urban design consultant, a heritage consultant, and an urban planner for 40 years in this city, and I live on Laval Street, which is one street over from Barrett. I was a working member of the Beechwood Community Design Plan, which was approved in 2006, and as other people have said, St. Charles Church was seen as a landmark on Beechwood Avenue. The photograph that I've circulated shows Beechwood Avenue as a curved road. Have you all got the photograph yet? And in the center of Beechwood Avenue, you see the bell tower. And as an urban design person, the bell tower and the Blue Cross on top of it, which has unfortunately gone out and the parish has chosen not to relight it, that is the landmark. Now, as you see on the photograph, the buildings in front of St. Charles on Beechwood Avenue, the ones with the gable roofs, belong to the what's his name, the dreaded developer, Mr. Lozon. The Beechwood Community Design Plan structured the heights of adjacent buildings to be relatively low so that the church would dominate the skyline. If the Lozon property is redeveloped and rezoning is applied for, it would obscure that landscape. Now, I'm just speaking to the landmark element of this, and I've worked with Mr. Cousineau, the wonderful Mr. Cousineau, former mayor of Vanier, to find alternative uses for the church. But both Mr. Cousineau and myself feel that the bell tower with its cross is the landmark. And it's a difficult, obviously this has massive cultural resonance for the Francophone Catholic community, but the bell tower is that symbol. And if nothing else, that bell tower and the cross should hopefully remain. Any redevelopment that takes place on this land, preserving the square, it's zoned public at the moment, it would require a massive rezoning. It's not an easy one, this. I know the parish does not support this designation, but perhaps we haven't looked enough to see what alternative uses could be made of the church. And Mr. Cousineau and I spent 2.5 years doing this, but we haven't come to the end of that exploration. And this designation is to allow us to continue to look at it. But the landmark element could remain, or as Mr. Cousineau has suggested to me, it could even be moved to the corner of Beechwood, where, as you see from the photograph, it would be more visible as a landmark. Now, this is an architectural solution, which has nothing to do with built heritage, but bear that in mind, that the bell tower and its cross is the landmark, and it is a memento and a memorial to the Francophone Catholic community who no longer worship at this church. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions of Ms. Hart? Well, thank you for coming today, and there's your picture.
May I have my photograph back?
Can we keep the copy for the records? And the photograph, we'll have it delivered to you in the audience. Okay, and so last up we have Monsieur Boulanger. Welcome. Longtime MP for Ottawa Vanier. Bonjour.
This? Okay. 5 minutes, that's the Cullen rule, is it? Sorry.
Actually, it is.
Yeah, I thought so. J'avais pas l'intention de prendre la parole, mais après avoir entendu ce que j'ai entendu ce matin, je pense que je voulais exprimer une idée. Hier, j'ai eu une bonne conversation avec M. Cousineau, qui est toujours dans la salle. Il sera peut-être un peu déçu de ce que je vais dire, mais je pense que lorsqu'on aura une autre conversation, qu'il va comprendre où je veux aller avec cette suggestion que je vais faire. Je respecte la situation de la paroisse. qui doit assumer le fardeau d'entretenir la propriété comme elle est là, même si elle n'est pas utilisée, et donc et qui veulent effectivement faire quelque chose pour récupérer l'investissement que cette propriété et l'Église représentent. Alors je respecte ça, et d'un autre côté, je comprends les souhaits de la communauté de vouloir préserver ce lieu qui a une signification pour la communauté locale, et le clocher en particulier et la croix. Ça, il n'y a aucune hésitation à reconnaître cette somme. Mais j'écoutais attentivement la présentation de Mme Gratton, et je dois avouer qu'elle a parfaitement raison. This church, not the constructed church itself, but the site represents something of great significance nationally. The fact that it is the birthplace of l'Ordre de Jacques Cartier, La Patente, is very significant. And I think it should be recognized as such. Now, not for its architectural value, because I'm not an expert there, but I think I recognize that there may not be that much significance on the church itself in terms of its architecture, and I listened to Monsignor Beach's comments. Where I may disagree, however, is the historical and the cultural significance. Et l'idée que je voudrais avancer, c'est est-ce que la ville ou est-ce que les gens qui sont impliqués dans le dossier ont considéré la notion de demander une désignation de lieu historique national? I have visited a number of national historic sites, Restigouche, where it's been built up magnificently, Grosse-Île, Quebec, where there was all the immigrants for a long, long time had to go in quarantine, le lieu historique, la Maison Laurier here. So there are about 100 close to 175, I would think, historic sites in the country under the administration of Parks Canada. I'm looking at the time here. And over time, these get developed and rebuilt, and to designate the historical significance. And I'm hoping that the proponents of various positions would consider a timeout, if you will, with perhaps some assistance from the city to the community to look at the possibility of obtaining a national historical site designation. Et si ça pouvait se faire, je pense que là, il y aurait un influx d'argent, d'appui financier de la part du gouvernement fédéral pour redévelopper le site en tant que site historique national. Now, it may take away from what the community wishes in terms of a community center, and so on and so forth. So that's why I'm putting it forward, floating it as an idea. But if there was an interest, I'm committing to trying to help it. I've been distracted over the last few years with the bridge issue. I had to focus on that for a while, and that seems to be in abeyance now, so I can perhaps take something else on. And I think the historical significance of La Patente cannot be underestimated. It has been a key factor in national unity. Madame Gratton touched on it, le Centre de civilisation de la recherche canadienne-française à l'Université d'Ottawa, et M. Prévost ont toutes des archives là-dessus. Mais le fait que le site est dans l'Église n'est pas à sous-estimer. Il ne peut pas être ignoré. Thank you.
Thank you. And you actually had 28 seconds left, just to let you know. So that was c'est bon. Good points. I mean, I think from the perspective of the city making a monetary contribution to take it over, I think I know that's a stretch. I mean, we're stretched to the max with our money as it is. Stretched. Absolutely. But I think that what we've heard today, and all of us have, no matter which side you're on, is that collectively there's an interest in working together. And today what's before us is whether or not we designate St. Charles Church. But very interesting points. I just wanted to say, too, that I didn't think you've been elected as long as we've been looking at that bridge, even though you've been elected for a very long time. Anyway, Conseiller Fleury?
For me, it's a question to staff, mainly related to the proposal. How would such requests impact the city? How would we lead such requests to the federal government?
I think that having worked for Parks Canada and the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada in my past career, the Historic Sites and Monuments Board makes recommendations and they note for buildings that are National Historic Sites, but also for events and people. And probably what a group would have to do is to make a submission, and I don't think it would be for the church. It would probably more logically be for Monsieur Barrette and the work of the Société Saint-Jacques and their work with the building. Jacques Cartier, I always get the, I'm sorry, yes, Jacques Cartier, and the work that they did with the Francophone community in, breaking into the federal government, et cetera, So if there was going to be a request, perhaps the city could support anybody who wanted to do that. The church has associative value with that, but I think the nationals, I think that the more logical way to do it would be to ask whether or not that is an event and Monsieur Barrette or Monsignor Barrette was a person of national historic significance for starting that. I just also want to add that just to remind the committee that designation protects the building, it does not protect the use, and it does not commit the city to absolutely anything. If this building is designated, it is protected, its heritage attributes are protected. It could become a Walmart. It could become anything because we cannot, the heritage designation does not regulate use. Zoning regulates use. So if it is designated and sold by the Archdiocese and purchased by somebody, they'll have to protect it and its attributes. They will not. There is no requirement that it continue to serve a community use. There's no requirement that a church buy it. It is a property that will be bought and sold freely on the market. And I just want to make that clear. I admire the aspirations of the community to find a use for this, but the Heritage Act does not govern use, and it does not stop the owner from selling the property to whomever they choose. No, a National Historic Site does not protect use unless it's owned by the federal government. Then they would have to buy it. Yeah, so, but a National Historic Site doesn't even protect building fabric. Only the Ontario Heritage Act protects building fabric.
And that's important for us too, because we've heard from a variety of people today from all aspects, really, and both communities and the church community, the recreational part of the community, the cultural community, and I think that's certainly that's important that we understand that. I see that. I'm not done yet.
Well, I didn't know this.
I saw it. I've got eyes in the side of my head. I'm a mother. I've got them in the back too of my head. But as I said previously, we're being asked to do one thing today. We're not being asked to talk about programming. We're not being asked to whether it should be a church. We're being asked whether we, as the Built Heritage Committee of the City of Ottawa, believe the staff recommendation on the designation of this property, of this church. Okay, not the inside, but the outside. That's what we're being asked to. So, to get into the semantics of it, that's not our job to do. That may be a job that Councillor Fleury, who sits on the Community Protective Services Committee, at some point may want to. But as long as the church owns it, they have absolutely the right to do whatever they want to with the building. For us, it's whether or not it should have a heritage designation. So, Member Smallwood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to confirm that it would not adversely impact any desire to have national recognition if we were to designate it locally. Thank you.
National designation does not protect building fabric. It is an honor. It's a commemoration. It is not designation. So they are two separate
I think he's agreeing with you.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that he is. Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Thank you very much for coming. And thank you all that came forward today. We had a good discussion. Conseiller Fleury.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. J'aimerais juste summariser les enjeux qu'on a vus. Je pense qu'il y a une situation qui est réelle pour le diocèse au niveau financier, puis qu'on a clairement entendu, autant au niveau de la participation des paroissiens que certains aspects plus financiers, c'est pas toujours... c'est très coûteux d'avoir des bâtiments qui sont patrimoniaux, puis il y en a déjà plusieurs dans leur portfolio. Cependant, ce qu'on a entendu de la communauté, c'est l'aspect culturel, puis l'aspect historique. Maureen l'a bien mentionné au niveau de l'impact qui est quand même assez plus large que simplement la communauté de Vanier. On va le laisser à ça. Je pense qu'il y a une bonne explication. Puis je pense que c'est l'astérix que vous avez mis au sujet de l'usage futur en est un qu'il faut être réel dans la communauté et conscient. Les discussions avec le diocèse doivent continuer. Ce n'est pas aujourd'hui que ça se conclut. C'est une discussion qui doit se continuer pour... si on va de l'avant avec une désignation, c'est parce qu'il y a une signification culturelle importante. Puis cet aspect-là doit faire partie de considérations futures ou de discussions futures. Et puis, c'est un peu... Je fais un parallèle avec la situation de Centraide. Hein. Centraide, j'étais coprésident l'an dernier, puis on a parlé souvent des levées de fonds. Quand on a eu Montfort, c'était facile, on avait un emplacement, un usage. Là, l'usage qui est religieux a parti, on a un emplacement, puis on y attache un lien culturel. C'est toute une dynamique qui est complexe, qui est pas simple, puis qu'il va falloir poursuivre. Alors, je vous laisse là-dessus. Je pense que la désignation confirme l'importance de cette discussion-là, mais qui reste énormément d'étapes à avoir pour avoir un usage. Parce que je mets un point, and I'll say it in English because I think it's very, very important. The community on both sides, the archdiocese, the business improvement group, does not want to see this building vacant. We want to see uses. And, through this designation, we don't just want to see an empty church with a designation that will not make the community happy. So I'll leave it at that, members.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything on wrap-up?
Comment?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Clark?
Well, I don't believe designation would restrict the creative redevelopment of the site, which is what the church's document on page 2 says. Church does not favor a heritage designation so restrictive as to limit a creative redevelopment. I don't believe that this designation would actually do that. What we want to do is protect the heritage shell of the building, I guess, and lots of possibilities exist that could be done to maintain that, so like Fridays over here and places like that. So I think that the arguments in favor of designation are quite clearly stated, cultural and other significance, and I will support designation.
Thank you. Okay. So, committee on the report, recommendation, carried. Thank you, everybody. Our last item is the designation of the British American Banknote Company. Really, this is for the facade of it. And we have 2 speakers. We'll just wait till the room clears a bit. Does committee wish to have a presentation on the banknote, British American banknote? No? So we'll just wait till everyone who's leaving leaves. And but I'll ask that Mr. McKechnie, Gordon McKechnie, come forward. He's the owner. Excuse me. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a point of clarification. I wish I was the owner. I do work for the owner, however.
Oh, I do have, I was going to say, I was wondering actually, but I do have owner here. So.
Well, I represent Canadian Banknote Company, and we've recently acquired this property. And I'm here today hoping that I can persuade you that in this particular circumstance, designation is neither warranted nor necessary for the heritage preservation of the property or for the community interest. Just by way of background, so you understand the context, our company has been in Ottawa for its entire existence, over 100 years. Our main office is on Richmond Road. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's at Richmond and Kirkwood, and it's a somewhat similar-looking building. We have a reputation in that area, and I think Councillor Hobbs would be able to confirm this, of being very sensitive to the community and maintaining the heritage aspects of the building. We're facing a number of challenges in our industry. We are significantly smaller than our European competitors, about 1/10 the size. We're a very capital-intensive business. We have, I think, been very lucky that our German competitor decided to abandon Canada, and they were a tenant of the building that's under consideration today. And in a rather interesting twist from what you've been hearing from other presenters today, I sort of view us as the rescuer of this building. We, in fact, bought it from a developer. We heard that there was a move by the tenant to abandon printing in Canada. We went to see the developer, who had plans to essentially demolish the building and redevelop. There was no use for the building in its current state except for one company in the country, and that's us. So we made an offer which they found acceptable, and our intent now is to continue the purpose that this building has had for its entire existence. But we face a number of challenges as a company. One of them is the challenge of being an urban manufacturer. We are a company employing 900 people in in Ottawa, 1,400 around the world. We're growing relatively rapidly in spite of our small size, but we need the ability to raise funds so we can keep reinvesting. And one of those principal sources of funds is the mortgage value of the properties we own. Designation will reduce that value and will impair our ability to expand and to create employment in Ottawa. I think one of the other factors that has to be borne in mind here is that to remain competitive internationally, we have to be nimble. And in a government town, the word nimble is not often heard, but to give you an example of nimbleness, last year our U.S. subsidiary was awarded the contract to produce the new high-secure driver's license for New York State. That contract's valued at about $80 million, and it's generated significant employment in Canada and in the U.S. We could not have bid that contract if we had not been able to assure ourselves that we could triple the size of our facility in Virginia between September and April. We started the process in September of last year. We occupied the expanded building in April of this year. And that was because the contract delivery dates are so short on things we bid on. While restrictions such as designation may not mean you can't make changes, they can mean you can't make them in time. And it's unlikely that this particular building we're talking about today would require significant change, but where it might need changes is in the area of security of the facade. The windows are not original. They are ballistic glass. That may not be sufficient for our purposes. There are a number of things we have to consider as we develop the business in this building to complement our existing business that may require alterations and might require them quickly. I'm indebted to Ms. Collins for all the effort she put into researching the building. There's clearly some heritage value to this, but I would suggest to you that it's minimal. And when you read her report, you'll see she uses words good, unlike words like excellent that you've seen in other presentations. But we value the heritage value of it, and the building actually fits nicely into our corporate image. If you look at the building on Kirkwood, it looks somewhat like this. It has the center elevated section. We've replicated that with our new building at Auriga. We have 75,000 square feet out there. We did it in Virginia with our new facility there. And then when we expanded the facility from 6,000 square feet to 27,000 in Virginia, we continued that replication of the corporate image that you see in that picture in front of you right now. And I did bring along pictures of all those buildings if you're interested. So my argument to you is this is the odd situation where it's in the community interest to actually not designate. If the community wants the purpose of this building to continue and for its heritage aspects to be preserved, we are the best chance for this city for that to happen. And that's our intention. Within a year, there'll be 200 people working in that building. It will be continuing to provide services related to banknote and secure document production in Canada and for governments around the world. And I think you don't necessarily want to do something that frustrates our ability to continue the use as it exists today and preserve that heritage aspect.
And you're way over time, but thank you. I think that you've made all the points, and I have a question.
Sure.
I think the intent has never been to designate the entire warehouse. It has been the facade. That's the important thing. So based on what you were saying from a business perspective, I'm wondering if there's a way that that can be protected, but not necessarily, like say, for example, you needed to expand. It would appear that with rezoning you could bring the facade forward to some degree. Is there a way for us to protect the facade that would allow them to have the opportunity to do what they may need to do in the changing world that we have? From a heritage perspective, could you comment on that?
Mr. McKechnie and I have had extensive conversations about the issues of security and the issues of needing to move fast and that sort of thing. And that was all taken into account when, in addition to the fact that we felt that the front portion of the building was the only portion that had, it told the story. The site is quite large. I don't know, we have you can see here on the map, the site is very big. The portion that we're proposing to designate is here at the very front. So there is still a lot of room at the back there to expand. And before Canada Banknote had purchased the property, we thought that it had been purchased by a developer, so we were thinking of ways in which the site could redevelop and maintain that front portion. So we were anticipating sort of, high-rise condos behind it. So I think expansion of their existing facility space, I don't see that being an issue. And then to the other points of things like windows and that sort of thing, we've taken that into account in considering what is proposed for designation through document 6 of the proposal.
But I mean, let's face it, too. There are changes to the needs in order to protect businesses, and we certainly have seen that with the possible end to the future of the move of D&D to the Nortel building. I mean, it's part of the reality of where we are, too. So the securities for them are increasing. I think there's a recognition that this is an important facade, and that's why the report is before us today. But I would not want to be in a position where we have, with no due consideration, give them the ability to continue to hire 200 people that work there, that would allow them to expand if they need to. And I think maintaining the facade would not necessarily mean that they couldn't go up above it if that was a recommendation that came in based on a need, for a use. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, I agree with you. I think if in addition to the back portion of the building, we may not even require an application if it wasn't impacting the front portion that's designated.
So on the issues of the may need to change for security purposes and that sort of thing, how would designation limit them from putting in the proper product that they need to protect what's inside the building?
As you will see, one of the changes that is proposed through the technical amendment that's in front of you is to change the wording under the heritage attributes where it talks about horizontal band of windows on the front facade. We've changed it to window openings so that the windows themselves are not actually included in the designation, because that was one of the concerns that was raised by the property owner, that there are often times that have that windows might have to be changed, or, for instance, another point that was brought up during our discussions was that bars might have to go on the windows at some point in time. And I've discussed this with the property owner and told him that we would view that as something that was a reversible intervention, and it wouldn't require a full application under the Heritage Act to come forward to this committee and all of that sort of thing. So
what kind of timing are we talking about? Say, for example, just hypothetically, an opportunity knocks on their door, they've got to be able to respond to it within 6 months or something like that. Is there even a remote chance in the city of Ottawa of having that play through in a timely fashion?
In 6 months? Oh,
yeah.
I mean, we deal with applications where people want to change the windows for, just hypothetically as windows, a couple of days. When it doesn't require formal approval to come forward to this committee, we understand and work with the property owner to the best of our ability and their ability. If they provide us with the information, we go back and say, that's fine, go ahead. So, I mean, it's something that we do hundreds of on an annual basis, so it's not...
Okay. Member Smallwood? Did you have questions of delegation? Perfect. And do you too, Councillor Hobbs? Okay, good. Thank you.
You made the comment that that the heritage designation would reduce the value of the property.
Yes.
Could you quantify that for us, please?
I can't give you an exact number right now, but you can see roughly the portion of the property that is affected. When we go to a bank and say, how much money will you give us against the security of this property, they're looking at the whole thing, not just part of it. And they don't want to get into issues of, now, what impact does that now have on the developability of the property in the future? We don't intend to develop it. We intend to use it the way it's originally designed. But its value is how we raise the money to put the equipment inside that employs people. And that is a significant impediment to our ability to continue to grow the business.
But the staff said that they didn't see this as being in any way you could continue to expand the facility as much as you needed. So it would appear from their comments that there would be no reduction in your ability to expand the site to meet your business needs.
It's two different issues, actually. I mean, the issue is, what will a bank lend me against the security of the property, not what do I want to add to the length of the building or the size of the building. We use the money to buy equipment to put inside the building. And so that I need to know that I'm going to get maximum value out of that property. And the other issue that, if I could just jump in on the nimbleness issue, I mean, I recognize that we can approach the city after designation for approval to do various things. But to go back to my New York example, we could not have bid that opportunity had we not known at the day the bid was due that we could achieve the result we needed to in that time frame. Because there are penalties associated with bidding and not delivering on time, and they would have bankrupted the company. So you have to be able to make these decisions on the spot instantaneously. And I think it's very important to this community that they be encouraging employers like us to continue to do that and not put impediments in the way where the justification for the impediment is slim. That there is some heritage value to this building, for sure, but it is slim. It's essentially a red brick building that has 3 boxes associated with it. It could be replicated with no difficulty whatsoever. It's not quite like the other buildings you looked at this morning. And so there is not a lot there to justify impairing the ability of our company to expand. And I'm asking you not to do that today.
Thank you. Councillor Hobbs?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks very much, Mr. McKechnie, for coming today. I just do want to point out that I really appreciate as well that you've been actively participating in the community design plan that is taking part in this area, the Gladstone CDP. And as part of that process, I know you have indicated and assured the planners that there are no intentions to do something drastically different with this property. So I just want to say how appreciative I am of that. In terms of the motion that I was bringing forward today, I'm not sure if you've seen that with the changes.
I don't think so, no.
Because there are, I'm just wondering if, and I know it's not giving you very much time to look at it, but pardon me.
Would you like to take the time to read that? We have one other delegation that could come forward, and then we could go back to our discussion with you. Would that be good?
Ms. Collins is assuring me that it's basically what she and I had discussed, so I'm prepared to accept that that was the thrust of this.
And, well, I mean, I'm just wondering, because you've had a previous discussion, if this is something that would make the whole issue more palatable, or is it still an
I think the issue remains the same, and in fact, when I did meet with Ms. Collins in the building, one of the things she focused on was really the only significant architectural feature in the interior, which is the aluminum security screen in the main lobby and the desire of the city to see that preserved. Of course, nobody in the public ever sees it, because nobody in the public can get inside this building, so it's a bit of a moot point. But just yesterday I was with our security staff, and they were looking at it thinking, oh my goodness, this is not going to meet the requirements that we have to meet in order to satisfy our federal government customers. So we're already into the can we even maintain that in its current state. And I just don't need the extra headache of having to work through these issues when it has no impact on the community. They can't even see it.
Yeah. And I do really appreciate the level of security that is required for this, for your type of operation. And I actually worked in this building when I was 17. We're sitting behind a press.
We're trying to make it look better than what it looked like when you worked there.
Yeah,
on the inside, anyway.
I was an examiner, and I looked at all the cigarette stamps that came off the press for the summer job. But I'm wondering if this was to be deferred somehow, if that would be important for the business venture that you have to go forward with right now, trying to, because I know you've just bought this building and there are probably changes that have to be made to it, and if we were to defer it or to do something different today, would you be willing to still work with our heritage planners to discuss any of those changes?
I mean, our attitude throughout is we've been cooperative, and I think Ms. Collins can confirm that. We're at the very beginning of our plans for this building, so this comes at a very inopportune time for us.
Yeah.
We don't even know exactly what's going in it yet.
So Councillor Hobbs, are you leaning in the direction of deferral?
Yes.
Okay, if you could just hold that for a minute. We have a question from Councillor Moffat.
That's still my name.
Member Councillor.
Just really quick, is this building on the Heritage Registry?
It's on the Heritage Reference List, but it's not on the Heritage Register, which is the 60-day thing. It's not on that. So it's on the Heritage Reference List, identified as a building of cultural heritage
You put it
value.
on the Heritage Registry?
The committee would have to make a motion to do that.
Maybe that's something that we could do, because then you wouldn't need to designate it now. And then if anyone ever wanted to come forward in the future to demolish it, then we would then have the ability to designate it then. That way we don't handcuff the current owner, who's clearly going to keep it in the current condition, and then should they sell it in 50 years' time, or whatever it is, we could then look at designating it then to protect the facade at that time. Yeah, that's right. When a demolition application would trigger it. Anything, yeah.
Just to comment on that, adding it to the register would only protect from demolition. It would give us the 60-day stay on demolition. It doesn't have anything to do with alterations. So that's just something for the committee to consider. So obviously we're not concerned with demolition at this point in time, but the committee, I don't know if the committee has concerns over ongoing alterations.
But if we recall, last meeting or the meeting before when we had the surprise Stittsville area property that's actually part of a future industrial park or whatever, and it was a home there that was on the registry. It wasn't even on the registry, but it was on the watcher. It was on the, right. So, but it's still, my point is, it still triggered a reaction. And that's, I think, where Councillor Moffat is going with this. So if it was on the registry, it definitely would trigger notification of yourselves and therefore the committee, should they wish to do something truly outrageous with it or come in actually with something to develop. The development application would trigger, and then we'd have that conversation then. I think that
That would be a very acceptable outcome for us at this point, Madam
But
Chair.
at this point, we may be deferring it, but I want Ms. Hode to have an opportunity to speak before we actually put the deferral on the table, so she's not just coming up to speak to Drill. So could I ask you to take a seat for a moment? If we need you to come back, we'll have you come back. Thank you very much. Linda, would you come forward, please?
Thank you. Good morning. I am speaking on behalf of the Hintonburg Community Association, and I did send in some comments yesterday. We do support the proposed designation of this building. It is a significant building. As you can see, it takes up an entire city block. It has quite a presence in the neighborhood. We would support the designation as proposed because it is a very tiny portion of the building on a very large lot. So expansion and changes could certainly occur, in my opinion, or somewhere else on the property without impinging on the piece that is being proposed for designation. I also question somewhat the loss of development value. As Councillor Hobbs has pointed out, and someone else as well, I think, when you get a designation, there is very often a density transfer permitted. If this particular parcel were to be rezoned as a result of the community design plan, which is highly likely, given its proximity to a transit station, or proposed transit station, there would be for the part of the building that cannot be changed or built up upon, you would get a density transfer to the rest of the site. This is a very common occurrence, and I'm sure that the city would be willing to provide the company with an assurance that this would happen, that he could give to the bank. I'm not a banker, but I would think that that doesn't detract from the real estate value of the property. In fact, some people might consider an attractive historic entrance to whatever might develop on the site should this company leave. You can actually, you can make a case that it enhances a proposed building. Some people are interested in heritage and are prepared to pay for it, and I guess the interior could be of interest as well if it became the lobby of, for example, a condo building or some other commercial property. However, that's very far in the future. So I would certainly recommend that that you do carry through with the designation. If not, I would prefer a deferral to continue discussions towards eventual designation to the notion of a registry. The registry, as Ms. Collins pointed out, does not protect the building from alteration. The reference list is your early notification system, and it is already on the reference list. So a deferral is preferable to the registry. So that would be my recommendation to you if you decide not to designate. And I guess I should just mention that we would like to have added to the heritage characteristics the front lawn and driveway. It's the presence of the building on Gladstone Avenue that I think is part of the is part of what it means to the community, and that lawn is certainly part of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in. So I'm going to, if there are no questions of Ms. Hode, we're going to come back into committee. And so, hang on a second. What do we need to do if we were going to go the way of the registry? What is that? We would move a motion to add it, which we did previously on another item. So that's an option, because out of deferral, I mean, if we defer it, might that not be what we come back with anyways? What do you all think? Yep.
I just want to, I appreciate Ms. Collins, especially. I know this is an architecture that you are very interested in, this era and this type of architecture, and you know, the community does love this building, but I have to say this particular company is you know, my heart lifted when I heard they had bought this building, and we no longer sort of were under threat of something terrible happening to this building. I have great faith in the banknote company. They're an important company in Ottawa. They employ, they're one of the largest employers in Ottawa, and you know, I know from their other property in Kitchissippi down on Richmond Road that they care very much for their front lawns and their facade and have a lot of integrity. And as Mr. McKechnie has shown us by being here today, also by taking part in the community design plan process, and we've received a lot of assurances, and I have no reason to not believe that the company would honor those. So I would be interested today in just turning down this application for heritage at this time, and making sure that it's on the registry as we've discussed, and allowing the banknote company to do what they need to do at this point, just being new owners of this building, and also with, as Mr. McKechnie had agreed to, continue to work with you on you know, whatever needs to be done to get this building to a state where they can securely operate. So that would be how I am leaning to turn down the application today, with the a motion to put it on the registry, and with the assurances of Mr. McKechnie, I feel we could do that safely.
Are you moving that?
Yes.
Okay, so your motion would be
to turn down the recommendation of staff, and add on a caveat that this be added to the
Heritage Registry. And so just on that again, so that if there's any confusion in the now very small audience, doing that will assure that if there is going to be any change, that we have an opportunity, or you are alerted to it, we have an opportunity for it. But I would just ask you, Mr. McKechnie, to come back up for a minute, because within this room, we're not the financial gurus that you are. And I would want to ask you, that would not limit your ability to receive support through banks.
I think it's a far preferable situation for us financially. I'm not concerned about it. I can assure the banks that you know, we then have much more flexibility than we would in the case of a designation, but we would obviously have to consult with the city on any proposal.
Okay, thank you very much for coming back up. So we need to break this into the motion into two. And the first motion would be that the property be put on the Heritage Registry. Is that carried? Okay, good. And then the second part of the motion would be refuse. I'm just giving her the opportunity
to vote on it in the negative.
Yeah. So on the staff recommendation,
Nay.
Nay. We can say call the vote, but we would be voting all in favor of refusing the staff recommendation at this time.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I think we've accomplished what we need to for the community, for the heritage community, and for what your business is today and how it's being operated. Thank you very much for coming out today.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, everybody. It is. I just have to go through a little bit of procedure stuff. I can go back and find my agenda again once more, encore fois. Here we go. So, notice of motion. Anyone have any notices of motion? I don't think so. Any inquiries? Any other business? Yes, there is, actually. No one has come forward interested in the two tickets that we have. We're finished, Mr. McKechnie. You're free to leave. We have two, and so, what, now you want to? Okay, well, we have two tickets, and it is a 3-day event, and I suggest that between yourself, myself, and Natalie, we can divide it up and make use of it so we have a learning experience. Okay, is that good? Okay, so that solves that. And then we have adjournment. Carrie? Thank you. I'll see you on November the 14th. And I just would like to point out that the Built Heritage Committee are lasting longer than the Planning Committee.